Now let's dive deep into the big LGBT story for today. I'm Raji Narayan Singh, and let's queer up trans rights. Inside the VA's secret resistance to anti-trans policy. In clinics across the country, an underground resistance is rising inside the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, and it's led by doctors who refuse to abandon transgender veterans. After the Trump administration cut off gender-affirming care in March, some VA physicians began defying orders in secret, risking their jobs and reputations to continue life-saving treatments. Speaking anonymously to The Advocate, one senior VA doctor called it Lavender Scare 2.0, adding, quote, "We're being surveilled. We're told to report each other for using the word transgender, but we're resisting strategically, quietly, because our patients' lives are on the line," end quote. The VA's rollback bans hormones, therapy for new patients, voice training, and even bans words like transgender in clinical records. But inside the silence, a network is growing. Doctors slipping in prescriptions, making coded referrals, and wearing rainbow pins as an act of defiance. One physician said, quote, "Being queer in the world is exhausting enough. Being queer in the VA right now feels like carrying a torch in a storm, but someone has to do it," end quote. Veterans have filed lawsuits. Over 100 VA clinicians signed a public letter calling the new policy unethical and a betrayal of our veterans. For LGBTQ plus vets, this fight isn't over. And inside the VA, the resistance is alive. Wow. It makes me feel good to know that there are doctors living up to the oath that they took.
Yes.
Because when they took that oath, they didn't say, oh, everyone else except transgender people.
Right.
It was all human beings. So I'm so happy that this is going on. And this is what has to go on. When you have a government like the one that we have right now, you have to find ways to survive.
Yeah.
And so it's good to know that they're looking out for the transgender veterans. These people served just like other veterans.
Right.
They're entitled to having the proper care that they need.
That's the thing. LGBTQ people have served in silence always.
Yes.
They've only been able to be out for a minute, and now some of them, the trans part, can't serve again out loud, and that is particularly heinous. That these people were willing to risk their lives, and now, if they're in this group, we're not willing to protect them. That's unconscionable, and it reminds me. And this isn't. Hyperbole. I'm not, I'm just not trying to stir up a big cloud of energy here. It really is not dissimilar to Bosnians, Kurds, Romani, Jews, other groups that have been targeted for who they are, and then dismissed and dehumanized and demonized and demoralized for who they are. This is a government saying that these people are not only equal citizens, they're not even equal human, maybe not fully human. That is disgusting, and that's what you were saying when you say you don't get the same care, you don't deserve to have life-saving care, or even gender-affirming care, or mental care, or whatever you need.
Yeah.
And so, these are people who are willing to die for you. Can you let them live their lives?
Yeah.
Is that so much to ask?
And as a transgender woman, the thought of me, like something happening and me having to call 911, dear Lord, I don't even know. I'm scared, like, are these paramedics going to show up and be anti-trans? How are they going to treat me? For me to even have to go to an emergency room.
And even if they're not cruel, are they competent? Because there are specific issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the reality is trans people have died because paramedics have refused to treat them because they were trans. We've had that in our history.
That's not okay.
So, I live this every day, and I just pray that I don't have to get to the point where, I went to the emergency room a few months ago. I had to go, and I was like, oh my God, terrified, praying in the car, but it ended up being fun. It was Holy Cross.
Right.
Shout out to Holy Cross. They treated me wonderful.
Great.
But it's the fear, living with that fear.
Middle of the night, you may not can get your primary care. You gotta,
Yes.
So, and I had a friend who, he's dead now, but he, after he had transitioned, his first trip to the emergency room was a nightmare, and I'd never thought about that.
Yeah.
And this was in New York City, and they didn't know what to do with him. And so he's trying to educate the people who are supposed to be helping him. But, of course, he still had a uterus or whatever. So he had to be a self-advocate and an educator and a patient. That's not right.
Yeah. And, I've gone to medical schools for this very reason and participated in trainings for the medical students so that, hopefully we have competent doctors in the future that are, comfortable with treating transgender people.
You agree?
Of course. It's hard to get a word in today. It's okay. No, I mean, my only statement to this whole story, other than the obvious that it's horrific, is that my entire family has been military. I have uncles that have been military. My father is military. My grandfathers were military. I have cousins that are military. And I just pray that I know a few of my relatives that are military are also Republican, and I just pray. I have one of my uncles in mind who is a pharmacist at the VA, and he is a Republican, and I just pray that he isn't holding back services, and that he's doing the right thing by joining the underground,
The resistance
in the VA, and he's got a big heart, and he knows who I am, so I hope to God that he is doing the right thing.
And I hope these people will be part of the resistance, but also they shouldn't have to be. The government shouldn't be putting them in that position. They should be treating everyone and not,
Well, but look at the situation in general, because the VA is under attack for more than just the 1% of trans individuals that we have. It's under attack, period, because the president doesn't appreciate veterans.
Right.
So unfortunately, so the only thing, my last statement, and then I'll shut up, is that I encourage everybody in the medical industry to just please do the right thing and to please support the trans community, whether you're in the private medical care or in the public system or in the VA system. And if you need help, please ask for it. We're here to help you. We'll do whatever you need.
That's a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.